What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We have the Daredevil Born Again official trailer. It is finally here. Let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it. It starts off with Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, at a diner with Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, who is now mayor in New York City. Now, we knew this was coming because they teased this with the post-credit scene of Echo. The post-credit scene for Echo showed Kingpin on a private jet watching a television of the news that basically said the people of New York need a mayor that has guts. Someone who can take a punch and throw a punch, and that's kind of what they're showing us here. But at the same time, they're showing us the past of both Daredevil and Kingpin, making sure we don't forget. Matt Murdock is Daredevil, and he's in action. We see him fighting, and then Kingpin is Kingpin. He is the Kingpin. He is a criminal. He is the head of one of the biggest criminal organizations in New York. They're being sure to show us that because of this meeting right here between Matt and Wilson Fisk. And Matt Murdock is the one who called this meeting according to what he said. Matt says, "Thank you for finding the time," implying that it was indeed him who called the meeting. Kingpin replies with, "I will admit it's not entirely unpleasant seeing you again." Now remember, during the Netflix Daredevil series, unless they're going to do the comic story where Kingpin actually has his memory kind of messed up and doesn't remember that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, which I don't think they're going to do. So unless that happens, in the Daredevil series, Kingpin found out that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. So the two of them here both know everything about each other. However, they do mention that a lot of time has passed. Kingpin tells Matt that he's come up in the world, and what he's referring to here is him as a lawyer. We know he means this because in this conversation, he also says that he's stopped being a vigilante, and he asks him why. We'll get to that in just a bit, but that confirms he is talking about him as a lawyer coming up in the world, so his practice is clearly doing well. And since he's clearly just focusing on being a lawyer and not being a vigilante, he's not being Daredevil anymore, yeah, his practice probably is better because he's not spending his time fighting crime. At least not on the streets, he is in the courtroom. Now, when Kingpin says that a lot of time has passed, I believe they are referring to a couple of different things here. One, obviously, they're referring to the time since Daredevil Season 3 and now Daredevil Born Again Season 1. But I also think they're referring to the fact that I believe Matt is going to take a break from being Daredevil in the beginning of Daredevil Born Again Season 1, because during this scene where he says a lot of time has passed, they show Matt with Foggy and Karen. And we know that originally the script was going to have Foggy and Karen killed off screen. They weren't going to show us that in Daredevil Born Again. They were just going to pick up the series with them having died. And originally this show was not going to be really connected to the old Netflix series at all. They have changed all of that. The Daredevil Netflix series is now canon. Everything that happened in that series is now technically a part of the MCU. So everything that happened in Daredevil on the Netflix show, that's going into Daredevil Born Again. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend you do that. So Karen and Foggy are still alive. However, I think that Foggy might die. Couple of reasons. One is they were already planning to kill these characters off. So we know that it's something that they would do. They would kill these characters because they already planned to do it. However, I think it's going to be just Foggy they kill because of the second reason. We have seen some set videos and some set photos with Karen with blood covered all over her. From that same scene, we see her with Matt and Foggy. And we know that Bullseye shows up to the scene as well. He has a gun and we hear him say, "Hey Karen," which is why I believe he shoots Foggy. Now, this is not confirmed, but I believe this is what happens, and this might be what causes Matt to kind of take a break from being the Daredevil. Either that, or it's the complete opposite. This is what causes him to come back as Daredevil and be born again. However, when Kingpin asks him, "Why did you stop being a vigilante?" Matt replies with, "A line was crossed." And when he says that, we see a scene of his mask falling to the ground. And on the ground, we see a lot of ambulances and police cars, which again could be the scene where Foggy dies. So the fact that they show this scene after Kingpin asks, "Why did he stop being a vigilante?" and he replies with, "A line was crossed," that line could have been, his friends got hurt, his friends got killed because of him, because he is Daredevil. They went after his friends to hurt him. So that could have been the line, and that could be why he stopped being Daredevil. So Kingpin has said that Matt has come up in the world, but Matt flips it on him and says, I could say the same about you. We notice that Kingpin is wearing a very nice suit with an American flag pin on it. And they actually show us that Kingpin right now, at least in this scene, it's a New Year's scene showing New York City where Kingpin is giving an address and his face is all over the screens here. We can actually see that it says Mayor-elect Wilson Fisk addresses the city. You can check that out on the right side of this image right here. We can see that it's New Year's Eve here in New York City, and you can also peek the sign for the Rogers musical on the left here. So Kingpin has been elected as mayor, and he says a mayor serves his city, which I believe Kingpin actually does want to do, at least initially when he becomes mayor of New York City. But rightfully so, Matt Murdock isn't exactly buying it. He's not buying the whole pitch because he knows who he used to be, the Kingpin. Kingpin says, I can see you're not entirely convinced, and Matt replies with, can you blame me? And of course, nobody can blame him because of everything they went through in the Netflix Daredevil series. Kingpin is a criminal, and he may be trying to clean that all up to be the mayor now, but he was who he was in the past, and obviously Daredevil's not going to trust him. At least not entirely. And when he says this, they do make sure to show us another scene of Kingpin really brutally attacking somebody. But here's where it gets really important and where a big part of Daredevil Born Again story comes into play. Matt says, I can't shake the feeling that you're gaming the system. And Kingpin asks Matt, why did you stop being a vigilante? And again, I think it's because of Foggy, but the bigger picture here is that based on what we have heard about the main plot for Daredevil Born Again is that when Kingpin is mayor, he's going to make being a vigilante illegal. And he might be asking for Matt's help on that part, both as a lawyer and the other side of him, the Daredevil. Because although they do not show it in this scene, they did show a Daredevil Born Again trailer that showed different scenes than this and different dialogue at the diner at events like D23. And here is some more dialogue that we saw then that they don't say now. Matt Murdock says, this city is as it's always been, out for blood. The city can't go unchecked. But Wilson Fisk says, sometimes peace must be broken, chaos must reign. Now, those lines are in this trailer as well. They're just not simply all said at the diner scene. But D23 showed a bit more than this. And here's what's interesting. For the D23 trailer, this scene in the diner ends with Matt saying, it sounds like we really understand each other. So if you step out of line, I am going to be there. And Kingpin replies with, this caution that you're giving me, who's it from? Matt Murdock or your darker half? Matt just smiles and Kingpin starts to laugh in a very, very menacing way. And what I believe is happening here is that Kingpin is actually asking for the help of Matt and Daredevil. And the reason I believe he's asking for his help is because of Muse. Muse is going to be the main villain for Daredevil season 1, and from what we know, it's much like he is in the comics. He's out there murdering people, then he's going around painting murals of Kingpin with the blood of those people that he's killed and kidnapped. He's painting murals of Kingpin with crowns on his head, basically implying that that's his target, that's who he's going after, and this obviously would upset and concern Kingpin. And this could be a big reason of why he is making being a vigilante in New York City illegal. And this could also be the reason why Matt says, I can't shake the feeling that you're gaming the system. He's a crime boss, but now he's become the mayor of New York City, and now he's making a law that make vigilantes illegal, which basically means that the people who oppose him, the Daredevil and others, are now performing illegal acts. And when law enforcement sees the masked vigilantes, they'll try to take them out, which means Kingpin won't really have anybody opposing him. So if he does want to do something shady as the mayor, nobody could be there to stop him. And in all honesty, it's a pretty good plan for Kingpin if this is indeed his plan. And that is probably why Matt says, but if you step out of line, I'm gonna be there. Basically meaning if you abuse your power as mayor to do stuff as a crime boss, I'm bringing you down. And not only that, but other people are dying to other vigilantes out there. We get a scene at the subway where it looks like one person is fighting 3 other people. And this is Camar de los Reyes. And sadly, he recently passed away. He passed away on December 24th, Christmas Eve of 2023 at age 56, which is incredibly sad, but they did manage to film all of his scenes as White Tiger for Daredevil Born Again. And we do actually get a scene in this trailer of him putting on the White Tiger suit, and it has the amulet around his neck, in which in the comics that's how the White Tiger gets his powers. Now there's been several White Tigers in the comics, but the amulet basically gives them superhuman strength, speed, agility, durability, stamina, increased senses, and accelerated healing factors. Not sure if that's the route they're going to go in the MCU in Daredevil Born Again, but he is wearing the amulet, so perhaps it is a route they're going to go. Now in the subway scene, we actually see that fight that he was in ended with him throwing one of those persons into an oncoming train, and that person dies. We have also seen in the D23 trailer that the White Tiger ends up in bars because of that. He goes to jail, and Matt Murdock goes and speaks with him. And I'm assuming that he gets out and then takes on the mantle of White Tiger to possibly go and help Matt Murdock / Daredevil continue to fight crime. We see all throughout this trailer that there are a lot of different crime organizations out there. We see the people in the ski masks that are colored. They're doing a lot of damage. We see some of them smashing people's faces into glass bottles. We see some of them breaking the legs of people, the arms of people. So crime obviously in New York City is still very rampant, and that's where the conflict between Daredevil and Kingpin is going to come in. Daredevil is going to be born again. He's going to return, and he's going to want to fight crime, and he's going to believe that Kingpin's not going to do it all himself, and again probably have ulterior motives, which I ultimately think does lead to a story in season 2 where Daredevil is going to once again go and try to take down Kingpin. Also, since Kingpin does ask Matt Murdock why he stopped being a vigilante, he clearly does remember that he is the Daredevil. And he says, "It's hard to come to terms with our violent nature, hating the power that it has over us." And when he says that, we see a scene where a bunch of people are beating Matt Murdock. And we actually see a lot of blood fly out of his face when he gets punched. And that's where we hear the voiceover of Matt saying, "This city can't go unchecked." And on the screen for the trailer, it says, "The devil's work is never done." And that's where we hear Kingpin say, "Sometimes peace needs to be broken so chaos can reign." And here we see a few very interesting scenes. We see a lot of Bullseye. We see him sometimes when he's out in the streets, and sometimes we see him imprisoned in restraints. And perhaps Bullseye does get arrested, possibly for shooting Foggy, but then he gets out, and maybe that's what makes Matt return as the Daredevil. That combined with Muse, who we also see here in the trailer. And he looks really, really awesome. Go ahead and let me know what you think about how he looks in the comments down below. We also see Michael Gandolfini, who is going to be playing Daniel Blade, who is going to be Mayor Fisk's Director of Communications. But I'm sure he's going to be a little bit more than that to him. And if you take a look at the scene that's very brief, you can see Kingpin and Vanessa having dinner together. They cheer and clink glasses together, and in the background, you can see blood. So obviously we know Kingpin is not going to just be, going down the straight and narrow path now. He might in the beginning try to leave all of his past behind, but it's gonna come back. Then we see the return of Frank Castle, the Punisher. And recently it was revealed by insider Daniel RPK that Marvel Studios is working on a Punisher series. That's obviously a rumor for now and not officially confirmed, but he is returning to play a pretty big role in Daredevil Born Again. Marvel Studios clearly sees how excited people are to see Matt Murdock return, so to do the same for the Punisher is a no-brainer. Now, the final scene of this, I think, really kind of encapsulates everything that this show is going to be. Matt Murdock says, "I was raised to believe in grace." And this is referring to Matt Murdock being Catholic, which is a pretty central part of his character in the comics. But then he says, "But I was also raised to believe in retribution." And retribution is punishment inflicted on someone as vengeance. And when he says that, we see all of his Daredevil mask. We see the silver one, we see the yellow one from She-Hulk, all with the horns, of course, on them. Then we get a really epic scene of him fighting Muse. The action looks amazing, but it ends with Matt Murdock screaming. He's yelling super angrily in the air out of frustration, and I believe this is probably due to somebody killing somebody very close to him. Again, since Marvel Studios originally planned to kill Foggy and Karen off screen, I don't think they're safe in this series. There is a big possibility that they both might die or one of them might die. And this could be why he is yelling in frustration. He might have hunted down the people who have done this. He could have sought that vengeance and then he yells after due to frustration. Now, it could have been Bullseye who maybe shot Foggy, and then it could have been Muse who might possibly kill Karen. We don't really know at this point in time, and Muse could also be working with Bullseye. We have no idea. But one thing I can say is this trailer does look amazing. And I am super happy that they decided to kind of redo everything to make sure that the Netflix Daredevil series was canon to this series and the MCU now. I think that that was 100% 100% the way to go. The show will be so much better because of it. It looks like this is going to be Marvel's darkest show, at least for the MCU. And I gotta say, it looks fantastic. I'm really excited for it. But go ahead, let me know your thoughts about the Daredevil Born Again first trailer in the comments down below. Are you excited? Are you not? What did you like the most about it? Leave your comments in the comment section. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news, rumors, or leaks, and of course, breakdowns. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.